Welcome to another episode of the Federal Newswire's Business of America podcast with your host, Jerry Rogers.
Welcome to another edition of the Business of America. We do this because no one else is doing it. Because who else is highlighting the entrepreneurs, the innovators, the men, the women who are making America run? And this is exciting because we've done lots of stuff, especially in the healthcare space. But today we're gonna talk to, and I'm kind of giddy because to me, entrepreneurs are celebrities or should be celebrities. And in DC, I was just talking to our producer before we came on air, and I was like, hey, who's in the office today? And he's like, this senator and that senator. And I'm thinking, for DC, that's the celebrity. But for me and for this show, the celebrity, the person of importance, celebrity is too shallow a term. It is the person who takes the risk, right? What did Teddy Roosevelt say about the arena? It's easy to criticize. It's easy to say, you did this wrong. I can do this better. No, it's the men, the women in the arena making it happen. And today we have with us, and I'll let her introduce herself too, but I'll just start because I like the company's tagline. I love the company's name, Vitaminis.
Yes.
Say that with me. Everyone say that with me.
Vitaminis.
So Leslie Danford, you are the founder of a company that is mini, mighty, and tasty, and I love it. So tell us a little bit about who you are and tell us about your company, and then we'll get into the why, the how, and everything else. But Leslie, welcome to the Business of America.
Thanks for having me. And I love that man in the arena quote, and I actually have it up here on my shelf. It's a great quote. Leslie Danford, founder of Vitaminis. I've always been a holistic wellness junkie. I believe like what you put in is what you get out when it comes to nutrition and your health. And I think like this food is medicine concept is really trendy right now. But I've always sort of thought that way. And at the same time, I don't love supplements. So like pills make me nauseous. You have to like plan what to eat when you take them and all this stuff. And then gummies are full of sugar. So I was never totally satisfied with that. I had the opportunity to work in the beverage industry. And while I was working there, I saw all sorts of research around what people wanted: clean label, nutrient dense, whole food based. I thought, yeah, that's what I want too. And it all sort of came together during the pandemic. I was working in hospitality. That company shut down during the pandemic, and I was kind of out of my routine. And that's when it all came together. I was thinking about my immune system and getting good nutrition in face of the pandemic germs. I was thinking about all that research I'd seen about what people want and the problems of the supplement industry. And I just had the idea.
It is a terrific idea, and so there's some points of synergy here. Number one, my mother growing up, my Irish redheaded mother, who wasn't a foodie or into nutrition in this way, but she would tell us all the time, garbage in, garbage out, and that was for your soul. It was for your mind, but it was also for your body, which is why she had fresh oranges and strawberries and why she made dinner for us every night. So we'd be home having a homemade dinner. So this idea of what you put in matters. And I think we forget about it. I used to run marathons, believe it or not.
Wow.
And I've always been athletic. I've been an athlete, but I gained 70 pounds through the pandemic. I hurt myself. I hurt my ankle, couldn't exercise, and I ballooned up. And I've been realizing that I can't run the weight off. I can't work the health back on. That's important. Exercise is critical, being healthy. But what I've noticed, and I think you just confirmed it, this synergy, in that is it's what I put into my body. Mm-hmm. And that matters, especially at my age. It matters more than the running or the exercising, which is important. Tell us about the company. Is it online? Is it I love Star Trek. I'm a bit of a techie in that sense. But when it comes to I have daughters. They're the ones who are doing the online shopping and finding entrepreneurs online. We've discovered all kinds of ways and places to buy this and purchase that. tell us about how you do your business.
Yeah, for sure. So we have these two little products. They're shots. We have immune support and gut health. So this one's vitamin C, zinc, and magnesium in orange pineapple juice. This one's probiotics and fiber and berry banana juice. And we're coming out with daily greens soon. We do have a website, so vitaminisbrand.com. That's how I first started because it was pandemic times. That's like all you could do. So you can find our products on our own website. We are also on Amazon and recently launched on Walmart Marketplace. So we're on all the big online shopping channels. And we are in retail as well. If you live in the Midwest, we're at Fresh Time and the Fruitful Yield, which are about 80 stores in these Midwestern states around Illinois.
Well, I'm sorry, Miss Leslie, but when are you coming to the East Coast?
I know, I want to. I'm in conversations with a few retailers, some of which are out on the East Coast, and some are national too, and I'm crossing my fingers that get them in one of these soon.
Well, God bless California, West Coast. I hope you get there too, but there's nothing like East Coast living. I'm from the Bronx originally, and I used to teach high school, and my kids would talk about, they were high school kids, and they would talk about West Coast rap versus East Coast rap. And I'm from the Bronx. The Bronx is the birthplace of rap music. So I'd be like, listen, nothing like the East Coast. And I think we need Vitaminis. We need Mini, Mighty, and Tasty on the East Coast. So the pandemic, how did you get off the ground? How did you get this going? I've talked to entrepreneurs and in terms of the cost and the sweat and all the rest of it, how did you get the structure going?
Yeah, it's a good question. And when I look back on it, it was very incremental, bit by bit by bit. So at the very beginning, during the pandemic, schools were shut down. I was at home. I was with my kids. It was total chaos. And my husband was still working remotely. So I kind of was thrown into this stay-at-home mom role, which I've never been in. And so one of the first things I did was just block off some childcare time, find somebody that could come help out so I could spend some time thinking about what was next for me. And so I think that's important to mention because a lot of entrepreneurs, and this might be like a women thing, is they're like, oh, I'll just start a business on the side. I really like to be in charge of the kids and be like a homemaker, but also do this. And it's really hard to do that. It takes time. So you do have to sort of take that bet on yourself early on and carve out okay, no, I'm going to dedicate, even if it's 15 minutes a day, if that's all you can do. That was a really important step. So that I did that. And one of the first things I did was interview people. So I had an interview guide and I sat down with friends, family, people that I maybe caught up with a lot informally, but this time I was like, no, this time I'm interviewing you. And I asked questions like, what struggles do you have with your nutrition? What do you read labels of products? What do you look for? What do you think about the products that are out there? What do you think is missing? What do you like about them? And I did probably 50 interviews. And this is I used to be a management consultant. So this is the consultant in me doing the market research. But that was great because it was completely free. And I left that process with a really good understanding of what I wanted to do. I had an idea before and I used all those conversations to test and refine that idea. And I came out of it with a much more specific idea.
What did you learn and why did that turn into this business? Because I'm curious. I'm a dad. I'm concerned about my health. I'm involved in healthcare policy. I can't imagine what people were offering up for you to jump to Mini, Mighty, Tasty. So what was it? What was the idea? The light bulb.
And truly, some of that came from my own experience. So I had some ideas. So some of the light bulbs were in my head already, and then I used the interviews to refine them. So one thing is I think that people are becoming much more educated about the importance of nutrition in their health. So I remember when I was growing up, back in the 80s and 90s, my parents at least, and I don't think they were on the forefront of nutrition by any means, but it was kind of okay, it's just energy, you need some energy, so have a bag of chips or something. And it's no, there's so much more to it. The vitamins, the nutrients, the protein, the various elements that your body needs. And I think people are just becoming smarter about that. More people are reading labels now. There's a lot more information out there on the internet or from influencers or whatever about the various things that we should be looking for. So that's one major trend. And also, people are becoming more aware of bad things like artificial ingredients, sugar. And so I think in general, more and more people are reading at labels, looking for specific things, looking to avoid specific things when they're making their food decisions. So that's something that I kind of knew theoretically before going to these conversations, but it was confirmed. And there's a range. Like some people are really intense about what they're looking for on the labels and they're really picky, and others are just glancing. But in any case, more people are just doing that in general. And then the second big thing I learned is because of that, people are trying to eat better, but it's hard. It's really hard. And then the reasons for that are like, convenience. It's just a pain, like all the shopping and the prepping. And if you want to do a whole food based diet, it's just a lot of work.
And the irony there too is people who are active, who are exercising, very often have to eat on the run because they're trying to be healthy, but they don't have time to prep food and sit and eat and all the rest of it. But go ahead.
Yes, totally. And we have more working parents and families, and it's just everything is compressed into the same 24 hours, and it's really hard to do this right. So people are understanding they need to do it, having trouble getting it done. And I've learned lots more reasons from those interviews and since then about the role of like food aversions, food allergies make it difficult. Produce now is actually less nutrient dense than it used to be due to farming and that kind of thing, the methods of farming. And so these were just confirmed in my interviews. And then specifically in these conversations, heard about like what people were looking for. So actually the first product idea I had was this gut health one. But I ended up launching the immune support product because when I was talking to everyone during the pandemic, that's what everyone was worried about. Their immune systems. Yes, of course.
Yes.
So that's another thing that came from that. And then from my own experience, I knew that pills and gummy vitamins are problematic for, they're hard to digest, they're hard to swallow, they're full of sugar. And I knew liquid was the way to go. But I also knew if I was going to sell this online, which was the only choice at that time, that it had to be small and condensed, easy to ship, convenient. It's hard to ship giant bottles of stuff. So that all sort of came together. So it was like what I knew, the circumstances, the interviews, and it wasn't like all at the moment. This was like a 6 to 9 month process. I'm doing the interviews, I'm learning, I'm figuring it out, and eventually landed on the vitamin E shot.
Now this is fantastic. And again, I'm thinking about my own life in terms of work and being a dad. And again, my house, my wife is into nutrition and eating right, and we have a garden, and in the summertime we eat mostly out of our own garden.
That's awesome.
Yes, we get lean proteins and stuff but she likes to say we're saving so much money with the garden, but it's not just about the savings; it's about the health. And I think you're right. People read labels. I go shopping on occasion. My wife does a lot of the food shopping, grocery shopping, only because she's more patient. Because I read the labels, and I know there are things I just won't buy if there's something on the label. She could read the labels quicker than me, and she's already in her mind kind of cross-sectioned and this and that, and knows what's good and bad. But what you've done though is you've helped in the process, so we don't have to take so much time to do it. So not only is it a good product, not only is it innovative, not only did you think this thing through, but it is literally something that makes life easier. And doesn't that also aid in just good health?
Yes. Yeah, because that's time that you could be spending getting your workout in or doing something else. Yeah, yeah, no, it's true. And some people do find that like cooking and food prep is like their hobby almost, and that brings joy to their life, and that's fine. But if it's another chore that's kind of taking away from other things that you want to do, that was a big goal for me. I have 4 kids now. I had 3 at the time. I actually had my daughter while I was launching the product, which is another part of the story.
Wow. But, so a mom, and then you went through a pregnancy and you launched a business.
Yes.
So I'm sorry, how many business awards have you won? Your shelf should be filled with Innovator of the Year, Wife of the Year, Entrepreneur of the Year. I mean, my goodness, holy cow.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, yeah, it's just like, you got to do what you got to do. Just get it done over here.
Are you sure you're not from New York? Are you from New York originally? You got to do what you got to do. You just get it done. This is great.
But I mean, I really did feel that time crunch. And same with the e-commerce. I use e-commerce a lot just to get, it's like necessity. Like, you gotta be efficient, but you also want to do the right thing. You know what I mean? You can't just be eating fast food every meal because it's efficient. So it's a balance.
Right. Yeah. My Big Mac, it's right
fast.
there. I coached high school football, varsity football for a lot of years. And I would stop and get a Big Mac before football practice because I would say in my head, well, I need something. My wife would have packed something for me, or my kids would have packed, my girls would have packed something for me. But I'm like, no, I think I need that. I was just fooling myself. And which I want to ask you this, because a lot of good health and a lot of good purchasing food items and nutrition items, food. I love that you said earlier in the program, food is medicine. Absolutely, food is medicine. And I've had entrepreneurs on who've engaged in this space and are actually here in DC working on, especially through Medicare, perhaps for seniors, getting some of these food as medicine products covered by insurance. But that's
wow.
a different issue. Maybe I'll hook you up with these folks and you can talk about Vitaminis as part of food as medicine and Medicare. But the question is that there are biases, right? Biases. I remember when I first started trying to be healthy, the first thing I read or was told, don't drink juices. Stay away from orange juice. Stay away from apple juice. Is there a bias these are juices and juices are filled with sugar and I mean, how do you get over that initial bias that juice is bad?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. And it's funny, like back to your Big Mac story, because I do eat fast food too. I think it's a balance. You know what I mean? And if you're too restrictive and you're too hard on yourself and you're depriving yourself all the time, then you're going to crave these things even more. And you're going to it's kind of like with the kids, like if you never let them have candy, they're just going to go over to their friend's house and stuff their face with candy. Yes. So it's a balance. So I think that's a similar thought with the juice. So the idea with Vitaminis is there's no added sugar. So, it's zero added sugar, but there is sugar in here from the juice. But the nice thing about it, it's 2.5 ounces. So it's just a little bit. And I actually have some customers that crave orange juice in the morning or after lunch, they want that little sweet thing. And this is a great option because it's only 5 grams of sugar, nothing added. It comes from the juice itself and it has the vitamins. So it can kind of scratch that itch, if you will, without going overboard. So that's kind of how I think about it. I actually don't get as much pushback about that as you might think. I think there's a little bit of a shift in mindset away from categorically avoiding certain things and more to looking for natural things, everything in moderation, being thoughtful and mindful, which I think is a great way to do it. So I don't get as much pushback about that as you might think. I think people more so look for the added sugar than they do generally vilifying juice.
Well, you just made a brilliant point, and that is any diet that is restricting this, stopping that, we're bound to fail, because you're right, because it's Saturday night and I haven't had pizza all week. And you know what? There's pizza. I'm going to have 7 slices, and I could do 7 slices. I think what I've learned, again, as I've grown, is exactly what you've said, and that is it's about moderation. It's about enjoying. We want to enjoy life. Mm-hmm. Food is pleasurable. It's wonderful. Nutrition is great. We don't want it to be. My mother says this to me all the time. She's an Irish woman, so she's a bad cook. Mom, I love you if you're listening. I love you, Mom. I really do. But terrible, horrible cook. Undercooked chicken. I never knew broccoli was green until I got married. I thought it was yellow, right? Anyway, but nowadays she has this attitude where, I wish I didn't have to eat. I wish I didn't have to think about it. I wish I didn't have to eat. I'm like, Mom, well, you have to eat. You have to put fuel in your body. But I think this is my mother would love that. I can't wait, in fact, to tell her about this product, because I think this would be great for my dad, my mom. It's easy. It's pleasurable. It tastes good. And they could do it on the run when she's on her way to the doctor's office. Hey, my dad's name is Jerry too. Hey, Jerry, take one of these. Oh, this is great. My mom's name is Jerry. So Jerry and Jerry and Jerry.
Wait, really? That's
oh, yeah, it's true. Jerry and Jerry. So, hey, Jerry, take one of these. Hey, Jerry, this is delicious.
That's not confusing
hey, call
at
Jerry
all.
and thank him for telling us about it. But what are some challenges you have in terms of the regulatory space or the tax space or the insurance you might need? I don't know. Like, what are the business challenges, or some of them anyway, that you had to overcome?
Yeah. Well, it's a little bit of a journey of kind of like you don't know what you don't know. So you're kind of like doing, and then you figure something out. And you're like, okay, so it feels like firefighting sometimes, but that's how a lot of these things happen. On the regulatory side, it could be seen as a challenge, or I saw it as really an opportunity. The supplement space is like the wild, wild west. So supplements are not regulated. You don't really know what's in there. You don't know if it works. You don't know if it's safe, whatever. So
or how it interacts with your medicine if you're taking medicine. I mean, right?
Yes. The onus is on the consumer, which is kind of scary. So I actually chose to label Vitaminis as a beverage. So we have this nutrition facts panel, just like your regular beverages with calories. And so I'm operating under the FDA by doing that. So it adds a little bit of challenge in the sense that I have to abide by FDA regulations for what's on the label and how I talk about claims. Like I can't say immune boosting because that implies that like if you drink this, your immune system will go up. But I call it immune support because it has all the ingredients to support a healthy immune system. So it's like these nuances. Whereas the supplements can kind of do whatever. I chose to go this route because I think it makes me feel better about the product that I'm offering, that it's safe and compliant and, whatever. But I also think it helps to build trust with the people taking the product. And I prefer that. So it's kind of like I chose to kind of face more challenges up front to operate under the FDA regulations, but then open up a bunch of opportunities for this juice to be a safe and reliable way to get your nutritional needs met without the risks. So that's one example, but it's funny on the insurance side of things, that's something I didn't really know about until I got into retail, and the retailers were like, well, please send us your insurance. I was like, I will get out. So it's
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So it's like one of those things, where you kind of find things out as you go. And a lot of it comes from listening to feedback, talking to other, entrepreneurs and asking them like, what do you wish you had known or whatever. But it's a very incremental process. I don't think anybody, I certainly not me, had this like grand plan and just started executing on it. It's more like you just jump in and figure stuff out.
I think that is the formula, if it is one, for the successful entrepreneur. If you have the perfect plan, or you're waiting on the perfect plan, you might never engage. It's like when I was younger, I met this beautiful, wonderful woman. I loved her with all my heart. And my mother kept on saying, you better ask her to marry you. And I'm like, Ma, I don't have enough money for a ring. Ma, I need money for this apartment. She goes, Jerry, if you're going to wait for the perfect time to get married, you'll never get married. My mom was right. So I asked that girl to marry me 31 years ago, and she stuck with me. But the thing is, it's easy. Or when we have 5 children, we could have waited for the perfect moment. There is no perfect moment. There is no perfect budget. There is no perfect timing. And I think the same is true because you talk about your friends and your family and folks that you sat down and you interviewed them. They helped mold and shape what you did, what your product does. And I think that entrepreneurs, and this is entrepreneurs watch this show and policymakers and other media watch this show. I think if we're waiting for the perfect time to launch your venture, whether it's a new website to deal with political issues, or if it's a new product for nutrition and well-being and health, or whatever it is, waiting is a formula for failure. Whereas jumping in, I love what you said earlier, and just figuring it out as it comes, like a firefighter, right? Like just there it is, there, and just kind of deal with it. It's not look, and maybe now what you're learning, which leads me to this next question, is how you're learning and what you're learning. Maybe you can then employ that for growing your business. And how is growing the business different than starting the business?
Yes. And I completely agree with what you said. Like you cannot like prevent risks from happening by planning up front. So you may as well just have some faith in your ability to deal with those things and know that you can handle it. So growing the business, it is a long process. It takes a long time. One thing that I have learned, and I think I knew it theoretically, but I really understand it now, is for a food product, especially like a nutritional product, people need a lot of exposure before they're going to buy it. So it's not like you see it one time and you're like, oh yeah, I'll quickly just buy that right now. They say seven touch points is what is required. And so what some implications of that are, social media has not been very helpful for Vitaminis. I mean, we do social media. I almost think of it as like your website. Like you have to have a presence so people can come look at what you're doing.
Right.
But in terms of getting people to buy, it doesn't really work because you're scrolling. You might see Vitaminis one time, like, oh, that's interesting, but you're not going to buy it. We do a lot of email marketing. And so if anyone's listening, please join our email list. I love email because we send out like expert interviews, educational material about your gut or your immune system, recipes, whatever. But once you're on our email list, we'll send you a weekly email and you can start to get to know the product and start to understand the benefits over time to come to that decision. And then when you do decide, okay, I think this does make sense for me, it's one click and you can buy it, versus social media where, the link isn't even direct and you got to go here, there, whatever. So that's one implication. And we leverage email as well from store purchases. So when people buy a bottle in store, they can scan this QR code on the bottle, join our email list. So maybe you tasted it, you thought it was good. You're not sure if you want to buy a 12-pack yet, but you're going to learn more about it. So that's one thing. And because of this model now, where on our website, we only sell the 12 packs, which are $50. It's expensive. But at store, you can try one bottle of Vitaminis for $5. We are looking to expand our retail footprint as a pipeline to get more people in, where they can try the one, see if they like it, scan the code. And it's sort of like this omni-channel flywheel that we've got going on. So my time is really focused on expanding the retail footprint, talking to new retailers about bringing on Vitaminis. And it's just a very long process. The bigger the retailer, the longer the process, and thinking about which retailers have the customers that are more likely to be early adopters, which in my mind is like a natural grocery. So like if you're shopping at like a Whole Foods, you're already of a mindset of clean label, better for you. So that's kind of the early retailers. And then longer term, maybe it is like the Target or the Walmart, where somebody just knows they need to do something better for their health, but maybe they aren't like really deep into this space already. So that's a lot of where I focus my time on growing that retail footprint. And then the e-commerce side of things and the email marketing side of things kind of comes along with it.
How are you thinking about your future? New flavors, different products. Not that you're going to announce any big plans here, but again, like just like anything else, if you stop working out, you can atrophy and that sort of thing. Do you have plans in the future to expand your products and this sort of thing?
Definitely. So long term, I envision a whole portfolio of like mini mighty tasty, whole food based, easy, convenient options. So I'm thinking like lots of mini bites, mini sips, maybe mini bars, where it's clean and easy and you get the actual additional nutrition in there. But on the near term, we have a third shot that I've been working on for a long time that I'm like imminently ready to launch, called Daily Greens, which is the same idea, but containing vitamins and minerals from leafy green vegetables like vitamins A, E, D, folate in a green apple pear juice. Same thing, no added sugar. So I'm really excited about that, and that should be coming out soon. But then longer term, whole portfolio of mini bites and sips.
I tell you, if I was in the food processing business, not the mechanisms we use, the machines we use to juice and such things, I'd see you as a big threat. I mean, you're like the car, the automobile, and these folks are the horse and buggy, right? Because everything you said about the market and people's time and convenience, you're putting it in a little mini bottle form.
Yeah.
And this is exactly how entrepreneurism, how capitalism, how the market should work. Last question, and it's just kind of a broad question too. You're doing this, and you're seeing some success. What do you think about the market broadly in America? Is it still good for entrepreneurs? Does your experience, does that instruct you and should instruct our audience that you can still be an entrepreneur in America today? You can still make your own way and deliver something to the market that's unique and special? What
yes. So I think in general, anytime something seems too easy or too good to be true, it probably is, right?
Yes.
So like, five years ago, maybe even a little longer, there was this whole like grow your brand on social media and, do the Facebook advertising and this whole thing. Those days are gone. Like you can't really do that anymore. Facebook is extremely expensive to market on. It's harder now with the privacy settings on Apple, iPhone to target people really specifically. And so entrepreneurship is always about finding that next breakthrough, that next thing. And that is really hard. If it was easy, everyone would do it.
Right. Yeah. Right. We all do it.
So it's definitely still possible, but the model of how to do it is evolving. And I don't even have all the answers. And, if everyone had all the answers, it wouldn't really be entrepreneurship because it's a lot about throwing yourself in, finding the way, finding what works, finding that angle and pursuing it. Like it's like following the crumbs of success to find where you can really drive things. So that's always going to be true. Like I think that is always there. It's just changing over time. The other thing I will say too about entrepreneurship right now is the fundraising environment is very difficult. And so that doesn't mean you can't do it, but it does mean, again, it's not going to be easy. The heyday of like a handful of years ago, even like during the pandemic when the stock market was booming and people had all this money because they weren't going out to dinner or whatever, they're investing all over the place. Sure. Those days are gone. People are holding on to their money. They're waiting to exit some investments. So that is tough right now. But I think it can be a good thing in that entrepreneurs can be challenged to be a little scrappier, be a little bit more profitable sooner, be a little bit more responsible, and make a lasting business sooner. So that is a challenge right now, but I see that as more of like a near-term next year or so, as opposed to like a long-term problem.
So I said last question. This will be the last question. Who did you go to for your startup capital?
So in the beginning, I bootstrapped it myself, which I had the benefit of starting this business a little bit later in my career. So I did have some money from working in corporate that I could spend, but I will say it was very incremental. It was like, I'm going to put a little bit of money to test this. I'm going to see if this works little by little, as opposed to like, I'm going to take my life savings and throw it over here. Because I think that when you think about it that way, it's very intimidating. But when you think about it like, I'm going to take a small amount where if it's completely lost, it won't kill me, and just test. That's like a very easy way to kind of get started with the bootstrapping model. But at this point now that I've expanded into retail, it's a little bit bigger. It does require more capital. So I do have angel investors now. Some of them are people that I've known for many years, and some of them are people that I've met through angel networks. But that's kind of I think that's the typical entry road. You don't go to the VCs right away. Right. You got to get that traction with those individuals first.
No, that makes sense. This has been one of our best shows. So I'm going, and I always say that, but it's always the truth. Let me say this, Leslie, thank you. We're going to have you back, I think, on an entrepreneur all-star show. But until then, we're gonna talk about your product, Vitaminis. Again, mini, mighty, and tasty. We're going to have you back again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This has been another excellent episode, if I don't say so myself, of the Business of America. Thank you.
This has been the Federal Newswire's Business of America podcast, hosted by Jerry Rogers. Check out the Federal Newswire's family of websites, as well as their social media stream